Well, since making my cobbler's pegs video yesterday, I realised that one has to be very careful. This isn't cobbler's pegs. This is white cedar, also known as, the Latin is Melia azedarach. So this is a deadly poison. This contains neurotoxin. It's a deadly poison, but it looks a little bit, if you're not familiar with what cobbler's pegs actually look like, you could make a mistake. You could, especially if they were growing side by side. That is a neurotoxin. That is white cedar or Melia azedarach, and it's neurotoxic. Let's just look at those leaves and memorize the shape. Again, these are some white cedar leaves and they're neurotoxic. Deadly poison. I just noticed there is a slight similarity, and you can't afford to be foolhardy. These are neurotoxic. These are cobbler's peg leaves. Now let's pick one, this big one. Let's pick it and compare it to the neurotoxic white cedar. There's a slight similarity to the untrained eye. No, they're not identical, no, but if to the untrained eye, to the novice, like myself, you could make a mistake. I'll just put a bit of darkness behind the leaf there. So that's neurotoxic white cedar here on the right, and this is cobbler's pegs on the left. This, they're a bit similar-ish. They are to the untrained eye, especially when they're all green. You could just, if they're growing side by side, and if you're not thinking about things, you could be a bit careless. You could be. Let's just pick the white cedar leaf. I've picked the white cedar leaf. And now, to the untrained eye, if you're not as an experienced bush tucker person, you can make mistakes. That's the neurotoxic white cedar. This is the edible cobbler's peg. Let's turn them over to look at the opposite side. If you're just picking and putting them in a bowl and not thinking too much, you could make a serious mistake. They are a bit similar, aren't they? Not identical, but a bit similar. Neurotoxic and deadly. Cobbler's peg, edible. Now here's that other tree again. No, I'm getting mixed up myself. No, which is which? Which is which? That's neurotoxic and deadly white cedar. That's neurotoxic and deadly white cedar. This is edible cobbler's peg. So you can't afford to make a mistake if they're growing side by side, and around where I am they can actually be growing side by side. That's cobbler's pegs. And these are the neurotoxic white cedar. White cedar, Melia azedarach. So put those aside. That's cobbler's peg. Cobbler's peg is just one leaf, actually, it's I don't know all the botanical terms. So here's a lovely little outcrop of cobbler's pegs. There are their leaves. Going a bit yellowish in autumn, some of them. And right beside them, not far away, just a couple of feet away, are these neurotoxic white cedar leaves. So the white cedar is a tree. It's an actual tree. But the leaves there is a similarity, and white cedar tree seedlings when they're just seedlings, you could mistake them if you weren't trained in bush tucker. The thing is, however, the cobbler's peg has the distinctive cobbler's pegs on top. So, provided you could make it a hard and fast rule that you don't eat cobbler's pegs unless you can see the cobbler's pegs on top. These are the cobbler's pegs there. There are the cobbler's pegs. There's a cobbler's pegs bud. And there are blossom buds there. These are cobbler's pegs. They've got the bud on them. Cobbler's pegs. So I'm going to make it a rule whenever I eat cobbler's pegs that they have to have the cobbler's pegs on top. I'm not going to, if anything looks a bit like a cobbler's peg but doesn't have a cobbler's peg flower head on top, I'm going to avoid it like the plague. Especially if you've got white cedar trees growing nearby. So this is perfectly safe to eat if we pick the cobbler's peg with the distinct cobbler's peg flowers on top. This is a young cobbler's peg tree, a plant rather. It's a little plant, young cobbler's pegs. But when you've got white cedar trees coming up in the same area, you could make a mistake, couldn't you, if you're foolish? They're young cobbler's pegs with the distinct yellow flower, all coming up wild. But if they're growing under a white cedar tree, you wouldn't want to make a mistake. Cobbler's pegs. Cobbler's pegs. This cobbler's peg is going a bit yellowish in autumn. Got the distinct cobbler's pegs beans seeds on top, so you know it's okay to eat. You know that's okay. The cobbler's pegs, distinct yellow flowers on top, distinct yellow flowers, more cobbler's pegs, distinct yellow flowers, but growing quite near a white cedar tree. And remember, when white cedar trees are small, the leaves look a bit cobbler's peggish to the untrained eye, and full of deadly neurotoxin. So here's a deadly white cedar tree. There's an autumnal bit of white cedar leaves. And here in my hand is autumnal cobbler's peg leaves. Not identical, no. But if you don't know what you're doing, you really don't know what you're doing. And yesterday I didn't know what I was doing because I hadn't thought about it. I did know there was a similarity, but I when I was picking them close to the ground, I just hoped that I wasn't doing the wrong thing. But the more I thought about it, I realized I should have been more careful. So the one on the right is neurotoxic and deadly white cedar. The one on the left is edible cobbler's pegs. You wouldn't want to mix them up in a salad bowl, would you? The white cedar are greener at the moment, but overall the cobbler's pegs can be green too. It's only because it's been dry lately that the cobbler's pegs have been going a bit yellowish. Now the white cedar tree has berries on it, poisonous berries. I think a few of those berries can kill a child. But anyway, the leaves have a more pungent, the leaves have a strong smell, a strong unpleasant smell. I think the white cedar tree is used to make insecticide too, actually. So, but there is a similarity when you look at the leaves, especially of the young trees coming up as seedlings from the ground. I can't see any seedlings just at the moment, but there is a similarity. So remember, you can also tell by the smell. White cedar trees have a strong smell. They're different, whereas cobbler's pegs leaves have a nicer smell, a greeny sort of smell. Whereas white cedar trees have an unpleasant smell, stronger smell, and they have berries. Look, so here I found a white cedar seedling coming up. It's either a seedling or a sucker. And here in my left hand I have the cobbler's peg. Now if they were growing side by side, and if they were both green at the same time, these can be green, remember, they're not always yellowish like this. If they were grown at the same time, you might find it hard to identify. Look, there's a lot of similarity there. A lot of similarity, so you should be warned of that. I'll put them down on the surface so you can compare them. So can you tell the difference between the edible and the neurotoxic? Can you tell the difference between the edible and the neurotoxic? That's white cedar here on the left. This is cobbler's pegs. But not all cobbler's pegs are so yellow, as I said. These are cobbler's pegs and they're greener. And if they were growing side by side, with white cedar seedlings or suckers, and if you didn't think too much about what you were picking and putting in your salad bowl, you might make a dreadful mistake. So learn to recognize the difference between white cedar and cobbler's pegs. It's important. Your life could depend on it, couldn't it? Eureka, I've just found a little white cedar tree. Several little white cedar trees. That's what I found. Several little white cedar trees. There's a white cedar tree. There's another white cedar tree. Now let's go and compare them with the cobbler's pegs. That would be easier. So can you tell the difference? Here are some white cedar trees in my right hand and a bunch of cobbler's pegs in my left hand. Can you tell the difference? It's important to be able to recognize the difference. Let's get closer to the ground. Coming up out of the ground here we have a little cobbler's peg. Here's another little cobbler's peg. And here in my right hand is a white cedar tree, the neurotoxic white cedar. I'm just going to put it side by side, the two little seedlings. Now, are you confident? Are you confident that if you saw them growing side by side, you wouldn't get them confused? If you're picking them, see they're both quite green. The one on the left is food. The one on the right is neurotoxic. Here we are, look, the bunny's been nibbling these. Bunny's been nibbling these cobbler's pegs just here. These are cobbler's pegs. Now, are you sure you can recognize the difference between white cedar and cobbler's pegs? Could you tell if you were foraging? Could you tell the difference? There is a similarity to the untrained eye. Now, if you want a lot of expertise about identifying cobbler's pegs, you should go to Green Dean's Eat the Weeds channel on YouTube. Green Dean's Eat the Weeds channel. He's an expert on wild food and can talk you through all the botanical information. There's cobbler's pegs. Here's white cedar. Here's cobbler's pegs just here. And here's white cedar beside them. Looking rather similar. I think I've said it enough times now, haven't I? First you tell them what you're going to tell them, then you tell them, and then you tell them what you've done told them, they say. So do be careful when you're foraging. Look who's out and about while I'm busy foraging. and learning. Rosella, I haven't seen you for a couple of days, have I? And why are you in shadow like that? You know the difference between White Cedar and Cobbler's pigs, don't you? You do. A beautiful Rosella. I'm just on the way to show you some lovely Cobbler's pigs, actually. Lovely quality ones for eating. Hello, Mr. or Mrs. Rosella. You know how to be careful with bush tucker, don't you? You do. You're no fool. It's eating the wild goji berries. And to finish off here, to finish off my video, there's a whole host of Cobbler's pigs here with their edible salad. That's all free green salad. And we identify them by the Cobbler's pigs, don't we? The Cobbler's pigs on top. That's what they look like, the pigs. That's what the pigs look like. Oh, look. And that's what the little flower looks like. That's what the flower looks like. That's the flower with its funny petals. There's the Cobbler's pigs. And here's all the gorgeous edible leaves. All free salad. It's all free and luscious salad. It's all free and nutritious, and it tastes so delicious, and it's lovely and green, and it's edible, and it's beautiful. So find out the difference between what you can forage and what you can't forage. Gorgeous and delicious.